I'm Tim Ellis. Thank you for joining us for Laneway Live. Every night this week, we're coming to you from a different part of the Laneway Theatre, and tonight, we're in the entrance, where there's a photo gallery of famous, legendary magicians, which is very appropriate because tonight, we're interviewing two living legends of Australian magic. Please welcome Arthur and Helen Coghlans. It is so great to see you guys. Where are you located right now?
Nice to see you, Tim. We're on the Gold Coast at Tallabudgera Valley.
It looks like
beautiful spot. Beautiful spot.
It looks like you're sort of sitting in a paradise quarantine. You probably don't really care about the rest of the world at the moment.
Oh yeah, I just realised we should be social distancing.
Oh yeah.
This is actually trick. We're not in the same room. So it's fine.
That's good. That's good. That works out well.
I'll prove it.
Now, a lot of people will know Arthur by Helen's appearance on Penn Teller Fool Us.
Yep.
That's changed, Tim. It's changed so much because for so many years and for so long, people have known me because of Dad. Not that there's anything wrong with that by any means, but it's always been, you are the Coghlans' daughter, you are the Coghlans' daughter, and just in the last couple of years, it has been, are you Helen Coghlans' dad? Yeah.
And I always deny that, of course.
For those who don't know, Arthur has been, literally, you are a living legend of magic here in Australia. You've even been given an award, I think it was 1994, as Australia's greatest escape artist ever.
Yes.
Yes, that was very nice. Yes, that was. Yeah.
So,
and then I received another award in
2007.
2007.
That was the Silver
America.
Cups Award.
In America.
The Silver Cups, yeah.
Yes.
So you're acclaimed as an escape artist, even though you are a magician as well. You sort of got your big break, as the people would say, on the Don Lane show, doing one of the most famous escapes Australia's ever seen.
Absolutely, yes. That was a big breakthrough for me and tremendous publicity. My goodness. And also very life-threatening. I honestly did nearly lose my life that night, yeah.
But that was the first of your many escapes on Don Lane show, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think I did about 3. I think I had about 4 or 5 appearances on the Don Lane show, yeah.
So why?
I must tell you a funny story. In those days, I had a Valiant station wagon, and it was signed, written all over Arthur Cog Magician because I was trying to sort of get publicity. After I hit the Don Lane show, I had to put it in and get the thing sprayed out because honestly, I'd stop at a set of traffic lights, people are blowing the horns and waving. It was absolutely embarrassing. I had no idea, Tim, the publicity I got from the Don Lane show, and that is a fact. I was totally embarrassed. I put the station wagon in and got the thing sprayed right out. Yeah.
So fame wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
Very embarrassing.
My question was though, why of all the escapes you could have chosen, why did you choose the one that was the most life-threatening?
Well, because it was a Don Lane show, and I'd already done a few escapes, and when they approached me about doing it, then the strange thing is, when I agreed to do an escape on the show and explain what I intended to do, which was out in the car park, of course, 50 feet up in the air.
100 feet.
100 feet, I'm sorry, 100 feet up in the air. And then I got a call from Rhonda McCormick, who was a research girl on the Don Lane show, who booked me. And she said, look, Arthur, we've decided to do this inside the studio instead of outside. And I said, in that case, don't bother about it, forget it. And she said, what do you mean, forget it? And I said, well, I won't come on the show if I can't do it my way. And she said to me, nobody's ever refused the Don Lane show. I said, that doesn't bother me at all. If I can't do it the way, I said, inside the studio, if the whole thing crashes, look, I'd be flat out getting a broken arm out of it. It's got to be done now. So I said, now, cancel the whole thing. I won't come on the show. And she said, just hang on a minute. The next thing, Peter Feynman got on the phone, and I'd never spoke to Peter before, and he asked me what the trouble was, and I told him exactly my thoughts on it, and he said, all right, Arthur, we'll do it your way. And he was to ring me after I did it on the Don Lane show, and he said, I've got to ring you to thank you for insisting on doing it your way, because without all that danger element, it would not have worked the way it should have worked. Yeah.
Wow. And so obviously we know a lot of the danger is implied, and it's you make it as safe as you possibly can, but you did say you almost lost your life on that occasion.
This is a true story, Tim. On Sunday, I went down earlier. The show was went to air on the Monday. On the Sunday, I went down there and we did a dummy run through with just an ordinary drum. You know, just I didn't get in the course just to see what it was going to look like on television. And I decided, I think it's a minute and a half, whatever it was. I decided, well, that's the right timing. We don't need to go any more than that. Otherwise, people are going to go and have a cup of coffee. You know, television's like. So that was agreed on. On the night I actually did it, as I'm walking out the car park, one of the fellows said to me, because you know it had the long rope there, 100 feet. I'm getting back to me, 100 feet of rope. As I'm going out, he said, I've put another 10 feet on the rope. You've now got 110 feet. Inwardly, I was cursing him. I thought, why the hell don't you leave things alone? What I didn't realize, he honestly saved my life, because I got stuck in the damn thing. I couldn't get out. And I'd taken no safety precautions. It was an idiotic thing to do, or few safety precautions. And when I realized I was stuck and I was going up, honestly, all I could think of is my family. I'd let Channel 9 down. You know, I'd stuffed the whole thing up, to one of better words. And then when I did actually get through and make the escape, I had two handles inside the box, which I grabbed. And as soon as I grabbed those handles, that's when the drum went down. And I was honestly thinking beforehand, how am I supposed to look when they lower the crane lowers the box? How am I supposed to look and come out like happy, surprised? I didn't have to worry about that, mate. I was honestly in shock. When I saw the replay, I was pure white. And I really thought I was going to die.
Wow.
And I never ever thought at the time to get back to the fellow that put the 10 feet on the rope, because if he had not done that, I wouldn't be talking to you now. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And that has gone down in history as one of the most amazing escapes in Australia, and also one of the most diabolical, because people they just didn't figure out. You had a 44-gallon drum, you had it examined scientifically, x-rayed, checked out. Everyone checked it out. It was a legitimate drum. You got inside, you were sealed inside, and nobody to this day figured it out. But you did tip it, I heard, at the Gold Coast Magic Convention that you just ran.
Yes, I did, Tim. After 40 years, whatever it was, I decided to let the secret out, because nobody never got close to working it out. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you also had, after that, I think you did a chair escape, similar sort of setup with a box. You were tied to
yes, similar thing. Yeah.
And also an underwater escape in Channel 9's legendary pool.
Yes, yep, I did that. Look, I must point out, all the escapology I did was for publicity. I didn't get any enjoyment out of escapology, I'll tell you, never ever. But it was tremendous publicity for me, and that's why I did concentrate for quite a long time on escapology. Yeah.
Because you were promoting, of course, your venue that was 1976 to 86 Magic Mountain, the Magic Castle.
Yes, yeah. And after those TV appearances, it just took off. It was unbelievable. The crowds just flocked in. So to me, it was just a great success story. Yeah.
Now, I did visit the Magic Mountain at one point, but I also recall very clearly going to see your show in the theatre restaurant that you had after Magic Mountain. And I saw a lot of amazing illusions and what I believe are all Arthur Coghlan originals.
I built all the illusions, the whole lot of them. Yeah, built them all. Yeah, I'd done at the theatre restaurant. At that time, I'd actually performed 6,500 shows at the Magic Castle. Plus, I was working 7 days a week at the Magic Castle, plus 6 nights a week at the now defunct Broadbeach International Hotel, where they brought all the big overseas acts in. So one time I was doing up to 6 shows a day at the castle, and then going to the Boar Beach Hotel of a night and performing at the Boar Beach Hotel as well. Yeah. So I knocked a lot of shows up.
And Helen was helping you in most of those shows at that time?
Not at the Broadbeach International. I was probably still at school, but I was at the Magic Castle, Magic Mountain with him for many years, and then at the theatre restaurant as well.
Helen has performed thousands of shows with me, and I must tell you, Tim, I've had a lot of girls over the years. Don't get me wrong with that.
Mum, block your ears.
A lot of good female assistants up there. But look, Helen and I, it's just clicked, because when you're doing a show, as you would know, if there's a problem somewhere, there's no big drama. It might be just a look or something like that, and you know the other one's going to fix it. And Helen, I don't embarrass her, but she has been absolutely terrific to work with over the years, and I would never ever think of working with anybody else. But then again, let me think about it.
It's all about timing.
Interestingly enough, even though you know the escapes are of good publicity, you had Helen. You did the Chinese water torture, the Houdini water torture escape. But
yeah, I did.
Publicity, or was that just you felt that?
No, that was publicity, because we had just moved into the theatre restaurant, and when one of the opening nights, Dad had invited some magicians along to watch the show. And we were sitting around after the show, and they were just talking about escapology and how it's such a male-dominated industry, and that females couldn't really do escapes. And it was like, and I was 21, it was like, oh, come on, I could do that. There's nothing. And at the time, there was also a newspaper came along to promote the theatre restaurant, like to do an article on the new theatre restaurant at Miami. And instead of, well, they did promote the theatre restaurant and the show, but what they focused on was me doing the water torture escape. So it was a full page article saying that how I was going to take on the men, and I was going to prove them wrong and do the water torture escape. So when it appeared a full page in the paper, it was like, oh, I better do it now. So that's how I started with it.
Is that the only escape you got into?
No, after that, I found it so much fun.
So different.
No, we've done different. Yeah, it was after that. We did a couple more. I did a couple from a wine barrel.
Wine barrel,
like
yeah.
An empty wine barrel.
No, it wasn't empty when you got in.
No, well, yeah, I wish. Also a steel cage.
The steel cage was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so over the years, I've probably, not as many as what Dad's done, but I've probably done about 3 or 4.
And we actually went to Malta. We went to Malta. And Helen was the star in Malta, not me. I was in the background in Malta, and Helen did a couple of escapes in Malta. And that was a film for Russian television. And I always remember the Russian promoter. He couldn't speak English very well. And when it was all over, he came up to me. He said, "Only God can explain." Yeah, it totally baffled. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I mean, I assume you were designing all of these escapes yourself, Arthur.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And unlike yourself, who's like, I don't really like them, I just do them for the publicity. Helen actually liked doing them.
No, actually, I was only mucking around. No, look, mine. No, it was okay. It was, you know what? It was because I've grown up with magic and I've grown up with Dad doing all the escapes. To me, it's just like, that's what you do. That's part of the job.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it has paid off, because it was your second escape, second appearance on Penn Teller was an escape that completely baffled Teller.
Yes, he was such a good sport with that. He really was.
Yeah.
He didn't even, because before the show, they don't get to know who's on, and they don't get to know what involvement they'll be doing. So I wasn't too sure. I mean, honestly, the producer said, please use him, he'll be fine. But I didn't want him to feel embarrassed about it. But he was such a good sport. He was fantastic.
Really
he was
good.
really good.
Yeah, great people.
Yes,
great
I was speaking to Michael Close a few nights ago, and Michael said that after the show, you invited them and said, would you like to know how this is done? And you took them backstage.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right.
Yeah, and they were just, especially Teller, was just
Unbelievable. He couldn't believe. He said we would never ever have worked that out. Full stop. Yeah.
Because once again, with all Dad's escapes, they're all original designs and the original methods. So no one else knows how to do them.
Yeah. And I think the nice look. What I've always tried to do, Tim, that have everything examined before and after. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but I invite them to have a look at it, pull it apart before and without any time lapse, do the escape, and then immediately afterwards re-examine it. Yeah, and that's what's been a big help to me, I think, because I've been able to, I don't know, being the next motor mechanic and truck driver, God knows what I suppose. So much stuff goes to my mind. I've been able to create these stupid ideas.
If only he could come up with a cure for coronavirus,
Yeah,
it would be fine. But no, he'll think of another magic trick instead.
Well, how? I mean, where is your inspiration from? Because is it something that you've grown up with, or is it just your brain thinks that way, or have you actually just like done tons of research?
no, I do very little research, Tim. I'm the sort of person I go to bed of a night, and I'll suddenly get an idea, and then I just can't sleep. And I know many times I've got up during the night, my pajamas gone to my workshop, and I might chalk at night. Do you happen to floor my workshop, something like that? No, I don't know what it is. I just can't turn off, mate. In fact, it's a damn nuisance, because there's times I just want to relax and do nothing, and then the brain will suddenly click in, and I'll start thinking of things, and I might be going through a shopping centre and spot something and think, oh, geez, and then suddenly get an idea, and yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I can't turn off from it. Yeah.
So let's have a look at the tennis racket trick that was the first fooler on the Penn Teller show. Is that a recent creation of yours or something from a long time ago?
No, that's a very interesting thing. No, that belonged to Les Levant. Remember Les Levant?
Oh yes, not personally.
Okay.
But yes.
The fellow that built a lot of Will Almer, who built a lot of Will's props, actually built that tennis racket for Les Levant. And many years ago, I became friends with Will, and I was down in Melbourne one time. I think it might have been the Don Lane show. I was doing that, and he actually gave me the racket. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that's not an Arthur Coghlan original, but it's
no, that's not. No. I can't take credit for that, mate. No.
No, and that's that's obviously the original one. And once again, I think that you said that was the only one of its kind in the world.
Yes. So I don't know of any other in the world. I think that is the only one in the world. Yeah.
So that's obviously really old, but it's good because it's something different.
Yeah.
Well, like the milk trick too.
Now that's Dad's creation.
That was the start of Helen getting on the Penn Teller show, because I came up with a trick, and I said, "Why don't you do it and send a clip over?" Nah, I said, "Look, do it and send it over."
And you know what? I did it just to get him off my back. It was like, oh, really? I don't want to go on the show. What the hell?
Next thing, she's on the show doing it and pulled them with it. And then, of course, the next show, then I won't send him about the third show, Helen. But aren't we home?
Did we almost get a scoop then?
Never.
So the racket and the milk both fooled them.
No, not the tennis racket.
Oh,
Teller actually figured that out. He was amazing. He figured that one out.
Yeah, I was very surprised he figured it out.
He was spot on with that one.
Yeah.
So much for Will Almer's idea, but the Arthur Coghlan?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the milk trick got him.
Yeah.
So I guess there's probably a lot of other magicians who've been knocking on your door saying, could we borrow something to go on Penn Teller's show?
We can give them some milk. That's fine.
Can
I borrow a glass of milk, please? No, that one. I want that one.
Not a problem.
Yeah, sure.
Give it back when you're finished with it.
Yeah. No, they can probably keep it.
Oh, yeah, with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Now
Let's get off that.
But that appearance on the Penn Teller show led you to create the Gold Coast Magic Convention to try and give more Australian magicians opportunities to go on the show.
Exactly, yeah, because the producers contacted us and they wanted to come over. So it was like, well, if we put a convention on, and everyone can come along. We'll get the best, in the business to come and audition. And yeah, so we created the convention last year. Luckily, it wasn't this year.
Oh yeah.
And it was good. It was a good convention, and I think they got some talent from it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
But we won't know until the show goes to air later this year.
It's going to air in July. They finished filming it just before the virus hit. So I think there will be 1 or 2 acts
really?
travel. Yeah.
Go figure.
I know. Don't start conspiracy theories. They didn't start it.
No, definitely not. But it was just lucky they happened to get the filming in.
And lucky we got home the day before all the bands were in place. Yeah.
How did they know we went to America?
Oh, we are getting a scoop. We are getting a scoop.
It was just a holiday. It was just a family holiday.
Just a family holiday, of course. So, I want to know, Arthur, you've been performing magic for 78 years now, because I did my math.
Whoa.
How long?
78. That must make you. When did you start?
Can we cut this interview now?
How old were you when you started?
Oh, I started magic. My first job when I left school at 14, I left school at 14, was in a place called the Wizard's Den, because I'm from England. I'm one of those spommy buggers. And I started working, demonstrating magic in a shop called the Wizard's Den in England. And that's where I met a lot of the old-time greats, Dante and all those magicians, because they'd come and perform with those tons of illusions, Yeah, so that was my start in magic. And in 48, came to Australia, went out in the bush, became a stockman, truck driver, motor mechanic, before I got into magic
74?
74. But magic was always a hobby. It's always a hobby in the background. Yeah.
But my question was going to be, and you tipped onto that, how the very famous magicians you must have encountered in your time. Obviously, Dante, a legend in magic.
The one of Shafalo, Benson Dulay, so many that today's magicians wouldn't know, would probably have never heard of them. But in those days, they were just, they were unbelievable. Yeah. And
they were just hanging out in the shop, and you'd session with them.
Yeah, that was the thing when they'd come to town with a big show, the Shakespeare Theatre, the Empire Theatre, wherever, and they'd have tons of equipment, massive illusions, and they'd always pay a visit. Yeah.
And then when
me only being a kid, and I've got an autograph book. I'd always get the autograph book.
You have an autograph book with all those guys?
Yeah.
David Copperfield's going to want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Money.
When I want to talk to him.
So you got to meet all these amazing magicians, but then you came to Australia.
Yep.
And no magicians.
No. I went straight out in the bush. I spent several years out in the bush. Then I mentioned I was truck driving. Then I eventually became an A-grade motor mechanic at a garage. And then it's too long a story to tell you how I actually, or the reason I got involved in the magic. It was a tragedy, actually. The death of a great friend of mine had caused me to turn into magic. An absolute tragic accident. And that's what made me become a motor mechanic one night, tried to be a magician the next night. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my life just suddenly changed like that. Yeah.
Is there a book coming out, maybe?
Look, I'm. You know what? It's funny with this coronavirus now, because Val mentioned to me when we were in America, somebody mentioned
Helen.
about writing a book, and I'm seriously thinking now of writing a book. I've written a book on the illusions of magic, and of course, but I am seriously thinking of writing a book because there's so much to tell from the early days, to what's happened up to today.
It would make a good movie because it's got everything in it.
I've been so successful, mate.
Who'd play me? Who'd play me?
Oh, I'd get somebody else.
Al McPherson would have to play me. Or my kids would probably say Danny DeVito.
Yeah, so no, I've been so lucky, mate. So lucky, yeah.
Well, I do have one of your books here.
Oh, simple magic.
Where did you knock that off?
I keep my secrets. This lives in my library here in the Laneway Theatre. This is what your book. Is there a story behind this book, or how it came about?
No, the story was I was simply asked to write it. What's the name of the place?
Hinkler Publications.
Yeah, Hinkler
Books.
Books. Just asked me if I'd, with Helen's help, of course, to write the book, and that's what we did. Yeah, we just wrote it. Yeah, no other reason.
And then for more serious, this is obviously just for beginner magicians, for kids who want to get started, but for the serious magicians, you have another book.
Yes, that's the, what's it called?
The secrets, the magic.
Oh, the original escapes of Arthur Coghlans.
That's the one. That's the one. I'm going to put a link down below because I know there's only a few copies left, but if anyone is interested in buying it, it's an astonishing book. Yeah.
Have you seen the book, Tim?
Only on the internet. I have not seen a physical copy.
Okay.
But it seems amazing. It's got the stories. It comes with a DVD as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It comes with the DVD of all the escapes. Yeah.
I put the DVD on because I think a lot of people reading it wouldn't believe that the escapes could be done. So we actually put the DVD in so that they could see the escapes. And then, well, they have been done. And then all the explanations. And the back of the book, of course, you can read the whole book, but the secrets, they're sealed in the back section, which, of course, if you buy the book, if people cut the seal, they read the methods, yeah.
We've got the sealed section. It's
in the sealed section.
Very few books have got a good sealed section like that.
Yeah.
Your life, I would love to talk to you more about your life and about your adventures, but unfortunately we are limited in our time. So we'll have to have another chat at some point when you get to writing some of those ideas out, because I definitely think that's well worth doing, a good way to spend coronavirus time. But do you have some suggestions or tips for other magicians who are stuck in this area where their work has all just vanished, like Matt, and they're sitting in their homes wondering, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? What can I do to possibly make a bit of income or pass the time?
Okay, well, to me, they're not going to get out and make much income right now. Well, all these bans are on, but the time is to sit and use the brain and start to think that it's got to finish, of course, eventually, and get back on the road. So my advice would be practice and try and think of new ideas. One of the things, Tim, a lot of magicians over the years, they simply copy other magicians, do that. For God's sake, try and think of something original and work on it. And that will keep their mind occupied, because I think you've got to look ahead and not think of what's happening right now. Everybody's in the same boat. Look ahead, plan for it. Yeah.
That's very good advice. And I love the fact that the secret to your success has been you don't copy other people. Or if you take a classic trick like Miss Maid, for example, the Miss Maid illusion, you completely twist it around and add that Arthur Coghlans twist. You look at the problems and find solutions.
That's exactly what he does. Yeah.
That when I first built up Miss Maid, that sat in my lounge room after I built it, because one of the problems, it was originally just in 4 separate compartments, and one of the problems, it was too heavy, and it wasn't my type of thing to be lifting boxes about. So it actually sat in my lounge room for several months after I built it, just one box on top of the other. And after I'd finished at the Broad Beach Hotel of a night, I'd come home and have a beer. I'd look at it, and I kept thinking, there's got to be a way to make that work mechanically. And all of a sudden, bang, one night the idea came to me. So the next day I'm in the workshop, and that was the result. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
And I've been very lucky, Tim. You know, my background as a mechanic has been such a help to me. I've got an excellent workshop with a lot of good equipment. So I have been very, very lucky that I'm able to sort of do the things, and I've got the equipment to do it. Yes. Yeah, very lucky.
It's a lot better than me. I can only fix something if it can be fixed with gaffer tape.
That gaffer tape fixes a lot, though.
I have no tangible practical skills at all. All I can do, just magic. Look, it's been so good chatting with you both. You make a fantastic team, and we hope to see some more magic. And definitely, you're down on record now. You're going to write that book.
Okay, no, I will. Look,
Thank you
it's
so
been
much.
really good to chat with you again, mate. Really good. And
Thank you.
thanks for being so
Bye-bye.
good to Helen when Helen was down there.
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Bye.
Yeah.